Paul, are we good? All right, we're on. Good evening, Farmington Hills. Welcome to our November 11th, 2024 City Council meeting. We are calling our regular session meeting to order. It begins with the Pledge of Allegiance, and this evening we are joined by our Mayor's Youth Council that is going to come to the microphone and start us out. A subset of our Mayor's Youth Council.
The girls. The girls.
Sagen started out.
3, 2. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we'll call you back in a little bit.
Okay.
So welcome to a special Veterans Day City Council meeting, and I'd like to honor and acknowledge all of our veterans who are here and out watching. So first item on the agenda is the roll call, please.
Council members Aldred,
Here.
Olaware. Here. Bridges.
Here.
Bruce.
Here.
Dwyer.
Here.
Knoll. Mayor Rich.
Here. This then takes us to item 1, approval of the regular session meeting agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion, Mayor.
Yes, please.
Madam Mayor, I move that council approve the agenda as published.
Moved by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a support? Support by Mr. Aldred. This is a regular vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Item 2, introduction of the Mayor's Youth Council and administration of the oath to council. Come on up, Mayor's Youth Council. And because it is mayors, plural, we're also joined this evening by Farmington Mayor Joe LaRussa, who will be joining us for a photo op in a few moments. Sagen, welcome. Sagen is one of our co-chairs for Mayor's Youth Council, and looks like we might have some others coming in too. And so if you could start off, love to hear name, what school you're at, what grade you're in, and what makes you proud to be part of this greater Farmington community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sajan Pinamaraju. I'm the Farmington president of the Mayor's Youth Council. I go to Farmington High School, and I'm a senior right now. And throughout my high school, I've always found opportunities to be part of the district and help out, whether it be volunteering at the Hawk through the Mayor's Youth Council, or whether it be just providing input through there's a district student roundtable, which I'm a part of. This district always has opportunities where students can step forward and create change or impact the students' environment, which I'm very grateful for, and I really appreciate in Farmington High Schools, in Farmington Hills.
Thank you, Sajan.
Hello, my name is Daniel Vukai. I'm a senior at Farmington, and one thing I really appreciate about Farmington Hills is the school districts, the school. I believe we have a great school board and very passionate teachers who are very motivated to teach the younger generations. And as a person inspired and motivated for STEM classes such as like sciences and biology, I believe the teachers there are very great, and I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you, Daniel.
Hi, my name's Paul DiMartini. I'm a senior at Farmington High School, and one thing I really love about Farmington is just how much of a community it feels like. It just seems like everyone, they're very nice to each other, and there's always someone willing to help you, and it doesn't seem like there's anyone that's negative towards you at all. It just seems like a great community.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joshua Luo, and I'm a junior at Farmington High School. And one thing I love about the district is that we have amazing athletic and art programs. I'm part of the swim team and also the music program at Farmington. And I'm just really happy for the support that we have for that.
Thank you, Joshua.
My name's Caden Hassa. I'm a member at large for Mayor's Youth Council. I'm in 12th grade and I go to Farmington High School. One thing I like about the district is I just feel like also the community is really nice. It feels like there's just a lot of potential friends you can make, and I just don't really have much more to say than that.
Thank you.
I'm Akshay. I'm a senior from Farmington High School. I'm also a member at large. And something I really like about this Farmington is the fact that we get a lot of support and funding for all of the events that we do, whether it's a part of Mayor's Youth Council or a part of our school.
Thank you, Akshay. Oops.
I'm Sanvi. I'm a junior at North Farmington. And one thing I like is that North and Farmington have a shared community, even though they're two different schools. And I really like that because I have a lot of friends and stuff at Farmington.
Thank you, Sanvi. And so this is, as I shared, a subset of our Mayor's Youth Council. And because as you can well imagine, these are students who have very busy, busy lives. So thank you for being here this evening. Could the clerk please come and deliver the oath? Sorry. Yeah, and then we'll do the photo afterwards. Well, yeah, why don't they come up here?
Everyone raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the Charter and city ordinances for the City of Farmington Hills, and I will faithfully discharge the duties as a member of the Mayor's Youth Council for the City of Farmington Hills, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability. I will.
Beautiful.
Congratulations.
She's only a freshman.
Excuse me.
She's friends with your younger sister, Katie. Yeah, I know your parents. I've known them for years. Yeah, you always just see them when you work foundation. Oh, yeah. I love your parents. They're so I see them at the Glen all the time. Yeah.
I was thinking of a different.
Congratulations. I was so excited to see you too.
I work with your father.
Yeah, my time makes you. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
All right, come on in.
He must be. Is he an engineer, Chris?
My father. His father.
Oh, I didn't know he was an engineer.
Thank you.
How many do you have from North? Because this is maybe Farmington. Just one? But there are more, right? They're just not here tonight? Is it equal 50-50 or? Yeah. Oh, is it? Okay.
We're very fortunate in this city to have such a dedicated group of students. And we look forward to hearing good things from them. Okay, next on the agenda is a proclamation recognizing November 11th, 2024 as Veterans Day. It will be read by Dr. Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas throughout the course of history, courageous men and women have taken up arms to secure, defend, and maintain the core principles upon which our nation's freedoms depend. And whereas since our nation's founding, more than 41 million men and women have stepped forward to serve their country during times of peace and times of war and conflict. And whereas the veterans who served in the military have protected the American way of life and have dedicated themselves to achieving lasting peace throughout the world. And whereas the spirit of freedom remains strong with over 1.3 million men and women currently on active duty and more than 800,000 in the reserve forces, with many in harm's way fighting overseas. And whereas as a nation, we are eternally grateful for the noble sacrifices made by our veterans, and we honor and respect them for their service. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Teresa Rich, Mayor of the City of Farmington Hills, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize our esteemed veterans in acknowledgement of Veterans Day 2024 and urge all residents to pause and reflect this November and throughout the year on the sacrifices of those who have served their country. And I believe accepting the proclamation is Mr. Curtis Daniel, who served as a fire protection specialist with the U.S. Air Force from 1971 to 1975, responsible for firecraft rescues.
Please come up. Thank you. And for the community, we had an absolutely lovely Veterans Day lunch today at the Costic Center. I see Marcia Coate is here, so Marcia and your team, thank you. And thank you to American House for sponsoring it. And it was a wonderful event and very much a beautiful time to honor our veterans, so thank you very much. We also have a proclamation recognizing November 13th, 2024 as World Kindness Day, and this will be read by Mr. Dwyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the City of Farmington Hills recognizes the value of acts of kindness that are performed without prompting or reason and how these acts can positively impact that person's giving kindness, the person receiving kindness, and those witnessing. And whereas act of kindness can be performed by any person regardless of age, background, education, gender, religion, or abilities for the unselfish purpose of spreading goodwill and perpetuate kind individuals, create a more caring community, and help to genuine acts of kindness in Farmington Hills and beyond. And whereas the Farmington Hills Commission on Children, Youth, and Family seeks to encourage a kind and supportive environment where children, youth, and the families are happy, healthy, educated, safe, and have the opportunity to reach their full potential. And whereas members of the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families inspire kindness and mental health awareness through their Kindness Rock Garden in Heritage Park and the Interaction Community Art installation of rocks painted with the uplifting messages for anyone to take when they are in need and encouragement. Now, therefore, I, Teresa Rich, Mayor of the City of Farmington Hills, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim November 13th, 2024 to be World Kindness Day and urge all members of the community to share acts of kindness, caring, and compassion in the community, not just on November 13th, but for every day of the year.
Thank you very much. And accepting this is Tammy Ludi with the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families. Thank you.
Want to add a few words if I can?
Please.
So the Commission on Youth and Families actually dedicated the Kindness Rock Garden back in October of 2022. So it's actually been 2 years that we've had the Kindness Rock Garden in our community. We've partnered with the library, teens, and at their events like the extravaganza and senior outreach of painted rocks. We've partnered with FAPN. The after-school middle school program is now actually painting rocks to add to the garden. We've been at the farmers market. We've been at Earth Day with the Nature Center. When we kicked off the garden, we helped and worked with the Arts Commission to kind of help with the design. And we've also went to the Health and Wellness Commission. So this project actually has been more than just our commission to kind of get going. It was something that I didn't even realize when I came up with the initial idea and said, hey, we have some money left. Let's try this. And so it's great to see it. We just last week, with the nice weather, went out and added some of the rocks from our last events. So, and we know that people are taking rocks when we're out at events. We hear from people, they have visited it, or people are like, oh, I didn't know about it. I want to go visit it. And so it is having an impact in our community. I've heard such amazing stories by some people who have said how it had a personal impact to their family. Our goal for our commission this year is to continue to work with other organizations, to partner with them, to kind of get more groups involved with the painting the rocks and getting them there. And we'll use some of our funds if we need to work with organizations, giving them the supplies and helping them kind of coordinate so that they can be involved with it and we can keep it going in our community so that it's not just our commission kind of going out and doing stuff. We want to make sure that, you know, everyone has a piece of this because we all need more kindness in the world. So.
Well, Ms. Ludi, thank you for your innovation, your initiative, and your leadership on this. Could you remind the community where at Heritage Park this is located?
It is located behind the Spicer House. There is a brick pathway that you can actually get into it. The Nature Center has actually recently got grant money as well, if you weren't aware, to be they removed some of the invasive plants that are behind the area where the Kindness Rock Garden was. So when I went last week with rocks, they were actually working with Oakland County Parks. And I was like, can I place the rocks? And they're like, yep, we're getting that area clean. They're going to be doing some planting back in there. And so continuing to make that area like a very nice area. There was a lot of benches there when we originally picked the area with them. And so it's kind of a quiet place, a little bit away from everything, where some people, it's great to come and reflect, having a bad day, come and look at the messages. The little kids love just painting multiple colors on the rocks, which keeps our garden looking pretty. Older teens and adults will write the messages or do the pictures, which those ones tend to leave the garden quicker, but just the color, it makes it like such a pretty place to go visit if you need a peaceful place to be some days.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have announcements and presentations from city boards, commissions, or any public officials who are here this evening. Not seeing anyone here this evening. So we will go to correspondence. Anyone have correspondence they would like to share? Continuing right along, next up is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine, administrative, or non-controversial by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a City Council member or citizen so requests, in which event the items may be removed from the consent agenda for consideration. They will be read by the Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Bridges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor. Item 7, recommend approval of award of bid for purchase of fire department day chairs to fire station furniture in the amount of $20,154.29, CMR 1124-111. Item 8, recommend approval of award of bid for purchase and installation of dump bodies and winter maintenance accessories on 2 new dump truck chassis and 4 new pickup trucks to Truck and Trailer Specialties in the amount of $277,256, CMR 1124-112. Item 9, recommend approval award of bid for Cossack Center Door B and Longacre House porch awning project to Michigan Tent and Awning Incorporated in the amount of not to exceed $12,845.05, CMR 1124-113. Item 10, recommended approval of City Council study session meeting minutes of October 28, 2024. Item 11, recommended approval of City Council regular session meeting minutes of October 28, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Bullower?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 7 through 11 as read by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, moved by Ms. Bullower, supported by Ms. Knoll. This is a roll call vote.
Council members Aldred?
Yes.
Bolaware?
Yes.
Bridges?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Dwyer?
Yes.
Knoll?
Yes.
And Mayor Rich?
Yes.
Thank you.
This then takes us to council member comments and announcements. Anyone have something they would like to share? Mr. Aldred.
Yeah, I'd like to pick back on, Madam Mayor, on your comment about the Veterans Day luncheon we attended earlier. So a number of us from council attended. It was really a wonderful event, really well put on. And I found it particularly moving to hear from veterans from the Vietnam War who had never really felt welcomed, well, they were not welcomed back, and yet experiencing that, one gentleman for the first time today, that sense of being appreciated and welcomed for serving his country. And, that was, for me, made the whole thing worthwhile to hear that. So it was wonderful to celebrate Veterans Day today. And secondly, and thank for those who served on our behalf. Secondly, I'd just like to mention an event that's happening here on Wednesday, the Farmington Safe Suicide Awareness for Everyone event related to first responder, trauma, substance abuse awareness. So it's here in City Chambers at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. It's also being live streamed. So it's really looking at the effect of first responders going out and the kind of trauma that they experience on a day-to-day basis and how that can impact their lives from a mental health point of view. And so a very well worthwhile event. I just wanted to make people aware of that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I would like to remind the community that tomorrow is another Walk the Hawk with council And anyone who would like to come join us on the track tomorrow at noon, we'll walk for about an hour and chat about what's going on in the city and give you an opportunity to share what is on your mind. So hope to see people there tomorrow at noon. This then takes us to the city manager's update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening. I too would like to give a big thanks to our special services staff for the effort at the Veterans Luncheon today. It was a wonderful affair. As Councilmember Aldred mentioned, it's fascinating to hear some of the stories. It's absolutely fascinating. And even though some of these folks might be in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, they were, I don't think you'd want to tangle with some of these people that were in the room back in the day when they were in their prime. So it's always good to hear from those folks. It's that time of the year again. Yard waste collection will end the week of December 9th on your regularly scheduled day. So just letting folks know that I know the leaves are coming down or have come down, so get your yard picked up and put the leaves at the curb, and just make sure you do it before the week of December 9th. And also wanted to invite the Farmington Hills community to our holiday lighting event on Tuesday, December 3rd, right here at City Hall, and that starts at 6:30. And we'll have Santa Claus on a fire engine and cookies and cocoa over at Fire 5 at the fire station, and hope to see a lot of people there. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. This then takes us to item 5, new business, consideration of request from Events Orama LLC for the transfer of ownership of a 2024 Class C license with various permits and 3 bars located at 23666 Orchard Lake Road. And Madam Clerk, would you tee this up for us, please?
All right. Good evening, everyone. So before you this evening is a request for a transfer of ownership for a Class C liquor license with various permits from Mr. Gupta, who I imagine is up here with his counsel. He's of Events Orama. This license is located at the Farmington Manor here down on Orchard Lake Road. The applicant has been, or the application packet rather, has been reviewed by all appropriate departments. However, it was denied by our police department pending the applicant receiving a waiver from council this evening. All other departments had no objection. Upon the police department's investigation, they discovered a prior arrest in Mr. Gupta's past that could affect the approval according to the city's ordinance section 4.45 or 4-45. The memo from the police department is attached or included in your packet this evening, and Mr. Gupta and his counsel is here to answer any questions you may have. Also, just keep in mind that in order for approval this evening, they would need 5 affirmative votes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Gupta, do you want to speak? Would you like to introduce your counsel and have them speak? You're welcome to make a preliminary presentation.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council.
Could you please speak into the microphone, though?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. I would prefer my counsel talk on my behalf, and then if there is any additional questions, I would take the mic and answer them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening. Thank you all for your time here today. My name is Peter Manny. I'm the attorney for Rajesh Gupta and Events Orama, and as the city clerk stated, we're seeking the approval here today for the transfer of a Class C license located at 23666 Orchard Lake Road for the business known as Farmington Hills Manor. Mr. Gupta's entity is currently under contract for the purchase of the banquet hall business known as Farmington Hills Manor. Not only did Mr. Gupta submit a city application for the transfer of the Class C license, but he also submitted an application through the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, and we are pleased to inform you that he has received approval for a conditional license and is in the process of receiving approval of the permanent license as well. Mr. Gupta conducted all his necessary inspections of the business. He's reviewed the financials and done all the necessary due diligence. He's received the food license from the county health department, and he is just about ready to close, but you know, the final stop is your approval here tonight. I'd like to get into Mr. Gupta's work experience because we believe experience in this type of industry, the banquet hall business, is critical to the success of the business. And Mr. Gupta has extensive experience in the restaurant and banquet hall industry, dating back to 1990, shortly after he arrived to the United States. And just briefly listing off his experience, in 1990, he was the manager of a restaurant specializing in Indian cuisine. Following that, in 1991 through 1996, he managed a restaurant in Austin, Texas, also specializing in Indian cuisine. And during that period of time, in 1995, he opened his first Indian restaurant in New Orleans, Louisiana. In 1996, he moved to Columbus, Ohio, where he's currently a resident of. And from 1996 through 2002, he opened 6 restaurants and 1 banquet hall. Later in 2008, he opened another restaurant, which closed down 2 years later due to the struggles of the recession. And Mr. Gupta also works as a consultant for those looking to get into the restaurant industry or banquet hall industry. Now, I know the police department recommended a denial, and they, properly cited the ordinance as a basis for that denial, but I would like to provide further explanation and hopefully quash any concerns that you all may have here today. I received a courtesy call from the city clerk notifying me that we were on the agenda this evening and also notifying me of the police department's recommendation of a denial. And so after I received the phone call, I called Mr. Gupta and we met, and we quickly gathered as much information as we could, and we prepared a supplemental letter to the application, which we sent over to the deputy clerk. I don't know if you have a copy of that supplement. I have a copy here with me today if you would like one. And also, Mr. Gupta's attorney, who handled the criminal matter in Ohio, sent us a letter this morning, and I'd just like to briefly read from that letter, just explaining the details of that case. So just to summarize the introduction, Mr. Gupta was an officer of Bayleaf of Columbus, Inc., a restaurant entity. Prior to the closure of the restaurant, Mr. Gupta had issued a check to a vendor signed by him. This was a business check, which was returned for non-sufficient funds. And just reading from this letter verbatim, on May 20, 2010, Mr. Gupta and I appeared for the arraignment, and he entered a plea of not guilty to the charges. The case was in the process of being resolved when Mr. Gupta had to go to India to attend to his ailing mother, and also his ailing father, by the way. He was unable to return due to an immigration issue. As a result, in February 2011, upon Mr. Gupta's failure to attend court, a capias was issued. In December 2022, Mr. Gupta made arrangements to return to the U.S. Subsequently, I, his attorney, worked with the prosecutor and the court for Mr. Gupta to pay the restitution in the amount of the check and resolve the pending case. On December 21, 2022, Mr. Gupta entered a plea of guilty to a stipulated lesser offense of attempted passing bad check, a misdemeanor. The prosecutor and I stipulated that Mr. Gupta had a 1-day jail credit so that there would not be any additional fines or court costs. The court sentenced Mr. Gupta to 1 day of incarceration, but suspended it for time served. And then he attaches the court documents, which we're more than willing to provide to you. And just to conclude, he says, in your decision-making, I request that you consider the following. Number one, Mr. Gupta pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge. At no point did he serve any time in jail, be it in the municipal case or relating to the subsequent filing in the Court of Common Pleas. He was ordered to pay restitution in the amount of the check in question, which he did prior to the sentencing hearing of December 21, 2022. He was not ordered to pay any fines or court costs, and the case was closed completely at sentencing. Mr. Gupta, I've gotten to know him over the past few months now. We've worked extensively because this is a serious business transaction for a relatively large business. And I must say that Mr. Gupta is a true gentleman, someone who is well experienced and well qualified to own and operate a business of this type. He is a husband, he is a father. You know, he cares for his family and takes care of his family. And I believe his character and work experience severely outweigh the criminal matter that is brought up here. So I appreciate your time here tonight. If you have any questions of me or of Mr. Gupta, we're more than happy to answer. And I also just would quickly like to cite in the inter-office correspondence by the police department, it was stated on the last page in the conclusion. It says, Gupta was honest and forthright about this conviction with Sergeant Hernandez. Farmington Hills ordinance does not prohibit issuing, or does prohibit issuing a liquor license to an applicant convicted of a crime of dishonesty or false statement. In this case, Gupta issued a check knowing he had insufficient funds in the bank. 12 years later, he took responsibility for his actions and handled the matter in court. So I believe Mr. Gupta's honesty and forthright and transparency should be greatly considered in this matter. Thank you.
May I add a couple of sentences, please? When I went to India to attend on my father's ailment, I never had any kind of an immigration issue. I was a full-fledged citizen of the United States by then. But then this was an all-of-a-sudden trip which I took on 9th of July of 2010, right in between of a very busy season of my restaurant. And my father was in ICU for 90 days. And in those times, I made some short trips to come back and attend to business affairs here, but then I had to go back. And because of my visa restrictions to visit India, being a US citizen, I could not actually go on his actual death, which happened on October 1st, 2010. And October 4th, 2010, due to recession impacts and me not being present in Columbus to take care of my business, I had to make a very ardent and hard decision. I had to let go my restaurant. And from there, my downfall started. Lost my dad, went back to India to take care of my family, my mom, my brothers. And my mom went into ailment. I lost her in 2012. In 2011, I got diabetic offset. I almost lost my life. And I've been in India taking care of family matters, which otherwise I was away from my family for 20 plus years. And I've been in the United States now for 32 years. I'm married and I have a son and a daughter, very responsible grown citizens. And we hold, God bless, some impeccable records. And we're proud to be here. Mistakes do happen. I wasn't here to take care of it. And then when I came back, I immediately attended the matter because I was always in touch with my attorney. And I took care of it. And I got my driver's license renewed. And when my passport expired, I got it renewed in Chennai, India. And I don't have any other thing to say. I just need.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Questions from council? I see Dr. Bruce and then Mr. Dwyer.
Thank you. When you were in India, you were there from when you left in 2010 to 2022.
Yes.
So about 12 years.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you take care of sending money or transferring money to take care of the bad check in that 12 years? Because I'm all about giving people second chances.
You're right, sir.
My concern is the long delay.
You're right, sir.
Because during that time, that business owner that you wrote the check to suffered harm or damage because obviously that check bounced to them. So you paid off. So that's my first question. Why wasn't it paid off in that 12 years? And then when you paid it off, was there any interest or penalty as well added on to that total amount?
To answer the second question first, sir, no, there was no interest or penalty added to that.
So that business was out.
Yes.
So in 12 years, $1,500 definitely declines in terms of the value of that money. So in my opinion, that didn't make that business owner whole because you paid him in $2010 and not $2022.
That's what they asked for, and that's how it got settled, sir.
Okay.
Answering the first part of the question, when I lost my restaurant, it started the decline of my economic condition of the family, and I was the main breadwinner. And when I was stuck in India, we lost a lot. Mm-hmm. And if I were to get into that breakdown of my story, in 2016, my wife fell ill. So she was left with two teenage children coming up here in Columbus, and we completely had a downfall. And it truly became very difficult to even live and meet our ends meet. And my wife had autoimmune diagnosis. She was working for a bank. So she's on disability now because she has a very rare condition. And so for many attempts, I was suffering economic depression both here in the US as well as in my family in India.
When did that turn around?
Honestly speaking, sir, when things change, time changes, right? Things start to happen. So when I came in November 2022, I tried many times. I was away from my children, my family, and I didn't like it a bit, but then I was going through a lot of trouble. And when my wife said, let's make this turnaround, Raj, and break the jinx, and I came back home in November 2022, apparently from there, I got this first opportunity in December when I was going back to end things in India, is the project I got in Detroit for a consultation. And that's how things slowly started taking around. I'm still in the, in the path of making things happen and stabilizing things. And that's exactly what it is, sir. We literally.
So are you purchasing the Farmington Manor? Is that
Sir,
what you're
one of my friends is helping me acquire the assets of the business through a loan because he believes in my operating capacities. And I've had a lot of experience. I do hold tons of experience. So this is a comeback, revival phase of my life where I'm trying to put things back into order.
So I've had different businesses in the past, and when there's been several times where somebody couldn't pay a bill, and they are willing, or they even offer to make payment arrangements, whether it's $20 a month, $100 a year, they show some good faith that they are aware of the debt, they take responsibility for it from the beginning, and they make payments, even if they're small payments, but they show that I know I'm responsible kind of attitude. And so I guess my concern is, I don't see any effort on your part to try even at a little bit to make that person, to take responsibility in that 12 years. And I guess I'm also concerned by the fact that you paid off a 2010 amount with 2022 dollars, and I still feel that business owner was out that bit of money. So I guess I'm not seeing the full, maybe not contrition's a bad word, but taking full responsibility in paying it off with some sort of interest and penalty, as well as making some sort of effort to pay off that bill over 12 years. That's what concerns
To the best of my knowledge, sir, there was no intention intended not to pay or not to settle down or anything. It
Well,
just
but
was
there was. I mean,
Yes.
you didn't. So
it just was
if there
like
was
I
an
was-
intention, you would do it. You see, that's the thing. An intention is shown by the behavior. And during that 12 years, nothing
Yes,
happened.
I was far away, and then I truly could not communicate.
In this modern world, it doesn't matter how far you are. You can be on the other side of the world, and it's not, any money can be transferred anywhere in a moment's notice. So
I completely understand, sir.
that to me is an excuse that doesn't work. That when you say you were in India, that doesn't matter nowadays. Maybe in 1860 it did, but not 2010 to 2022.
Sir, but then the first major thing I did when I came in is to take care of this, sir. That was my intention. And
But I
I've
guess
never-
I'm not getting an answer why there wasn't
sir,
even
honestly,
a
difficult
token, just an attempt to do a token amount to the individual while you were out of the country.
I'm really sorry, but very difficult times.
Not me, it's
very,
not
No, I know, I understand, sir, but very difficult times. And I've gone through a lot,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, and then I can write up everything which can stand to its true thing. Very difficult times, and otherwise I would have done it, yes.
Yeah, but the part is, it started off with a crime and then led to you having difficult times, or that difficult times led you to doing a crime, I hate to say it that way, and then a failure to take responsibility for it for 12 years. So this is the struggle I'm having with that position.
Sir, if I was here and not taking care of it, yes, sir, I would agree with you, but I was not here, sir.
I understand, but that's beside the point. It doesn't matter where you were.
I'm sorry, sir.
So we have Mr. Dwyer, Mr. Bridges, and then Ms. Knoll.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on my experience, and I was the police chief here for 23 years, and I reviewed and approved and denied hundreds of requests for Class C licenses or an SDD or an SDM. In this particular case, it's really something that I really, quite frankly, as a professional and someone that is concerned about people making a living, I don't really think you ever had any intent. I mean, it was a business check for $1,200. You only had, what, $375 in the bank. Then your father got sick and you went to Turkey and you were gone for 12 years. And then when you did find out and you came back, you made it whole. You pleaded to a misdemeanor, a 90-day misdemeanor. So, based on a lot of factors and the investigation itself by the police department and how you cooperated, how you were honest and forthright with the investigator, I'm going to recommend approval for the license myself. I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Bridges.
Yes, so when you left to go to India, did you have any knowledge that there was a debt pending?
Partly, yes, sir.
Partly, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But because of the time stress and everything going on, and no, sir, we went through a very difficult time. That's all, and that resulted in this delay of taking care of the case. And otherwise, there was nothing. I would have taken care of it right away.
City Clerk, did you do a query? Have we approved requests like this before? Have you seen any? Did you do research in regards to similar requests where a proponent had similar, not exact situation? Do you have any knowledge regarding previous cases like this?
Not in my time as clerk.
As clerk, and so we have no knowledge regarding previous cases of proponents having similar background issues, and we approved it anyway.
I can tell you that we have contacted applicants, just as I did Mr. Gupa here, and let them know that the things that have been found are going to be made public, and there have been applicants that have pulled out of their request for those reasons.
Withdrawn their request?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. All right, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Null.
So, Mr. Gupta has admitted his mistake. I think he's been very forthright. I think he's been very sincere in acknowledging his mistake and that he's sorry for it. And so it was a long time ago, very long time ago. He didn't serve any jail time. As far as the warrant, he didn't even know there was a warrant for his arrest because he went to India to take care of the failing health of a mother and father. Like I said, as soon as he came back, he did deal with this. He's made restitution for the amount that was required of him. So I do appreciate his sincerity. I think many of us have made mistakes in our life, and we hope for a bit of grace, especially after we've, paid our restitution or made our amends. And so I'm willing to overlook that. I would love to see this business thrive in Farmington Hills, and I'm actually going to change the subject because for quite some time now, the Farmington Manor, I drive by it and oof, I kind of, I'm not pleased with the landscaping. It is in really bad condition. There are weeds growing in through everything. Maybe not so much now anymore as things are dying off, but this summer it was horrendous. Every time I drove by, that's all I could see is the weeds growing out of the bushes and out of the plantings. And so one of my biggest concerns is that the front of the Farmington Manor, that the landscaping is cleaned up. And I don't care if you hire someone to do it or in the spring you get out there in your hands and knees and pull the weeds yourself like I do in my garden. But that the landscaping has got to get cleaned up there. I felt so bad. I saw a bride and groom out there like maybe September having photos taken. It was their wedding reception at the manor. And all I could think about is in the backdrop of all their photos are going to be those weeds popping out of those bushes. So please, I wish you, if this passes tonight, I'm in favor of it, but if it passes, please, please clean up the front of the Farmington Manor. Like, just either redo the landscaping, or if you can't afford to do that and you have to do things incrementally, I get that. It's tough owning a business and being a small business owner, but please get out there yourself and clean up the weeds. That's the minimum that needs to be done.
Ma'am, to assure you, I have that in my purchase contract that the owner will fix the skimming of the parking lot and take care of the weeding, so that we are trying to bring it into shape. And we're
Thank
going to
you.
be also working on the appearance of the outer building.
Thank you, because it's gone downhill.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe in the broken window theory, that when businesses don't take care of their facade, it leads to other businesses on the street and in the neighborhood not taking care of their facade, and vice versa. If one business does get out there, and, you know, I always hear the excuse, I can't afford to hire a landscaper. I am sorry, but it's free for you to get out there and clean up the weeds yourself. That doesn't cost money. I always say that. So, you know, do what you can to improve the appearance, and hopefully that section of Orchard Lake will improve.
I assure you it will be taken care of.
Thank you very much, and best of luck, if this is successful tonight.
Anyone else? Mr. Aldred?
I also like to say I do believe in giving people second chances, and my view is that this is something which you have taken care of, at least belatedly, and you've addressed that. I do have one question though I'd like to clear up.
Please, sir.
If I may. And one of those issues was in terms of the council packet that was provided. There was a correspondence from the police department and also your letter, Mr. Manny, I believe. And it was to do with the fact that was mentioned with regards what was known in terms of when Mr. Gupta left the country. It says from the police, says in 2010, Mr. Gupta was charged with the crime of passing bad checks. Mr. Gupta was cooperative with the police and the victim. However, he was unable to obtain funds to make the victim whole. Mr. Gupta eventually made the victim whole in 2022 and cleared out this outstanding warrant. Okay, factual. In your letter, Mr. Manny, you said, on or around 2011, Mr. Gupta was charged with passing a bad check. Mr. Gupta had left the country to visit his late father, who fell ill at this time in India. Mr. Gupta was not aware of a warrant against him. Could you just explain how he was cooperative with the police and with the victim, however, he was not aware that there was a warrant when he left? I guess, was he aware of an arrest when he left the country?
No, he was aware, and the facts that I had were limited, and I was just relying on the court docket, the local court docket there, and Mr. Gupta also provided me with some details. He did not quite fully remember at the time, but that's why I read his attorney in Ohio's letter.
Right.
Because he had he accurately depicted the timeline and the events that took place at that.
Okay, so we hadn't, what you read out verbally, we hadn't received in writing, correct?
That is correct. He just sent it this morning. I'm more than willing to provide you with a hard copy right now.
Right.
If you'd like to read it. We just received it this morning.
Okay, all right. I think you can understand why I'm asking the question.
Absolutely.
Because we're talking about, you know, making full statements. So I just want to make sure we got.
No, I know, and that's why I read from his letter here, because it accurately depicts the events and the timeline of the case. So, I apologize for any inconsistencies. We're not here to make any false statements. We're here to be fully transparent and forthright.
That was my point. We're trying to put false statements in the past, and what you're saying tonight is that he was aware of a warrant.
Yes.
However, he chose to look after because the difficulties with his family in India.
Correct.
And he chose to do what he could to look after his family in those circumstances. That's the honest situation.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So I too believe in second chances, but I do have a question for our city attorney. So when we look at the language of the ordinance, no such license shall be issued to. So this is where I'm struggling, Mr. Attorney, is shall is mandatory language. It does not appear to me that we even have the ability, if we wanted to waive this requirement, to waive this requirement. Please tell me I'm reading this incorrectly.
No, you are reading it correctly. It is a mandatory requirement. You'll note on the chief's report that he says, subject to any waiver granted by city council. So he has said his recommendation is to deny because he has to, because that's the language in the ordinance. He can't waive it. Only you can waive any ordinance requirement. I've given this advice in the past about waivers. The advice is that if you're going to give a waiver, you do it very rarely and very carefully. Number one, as I think it was Mr. Bridges asked questions about, has this ever happened before? And that's a right question, because if somebody else comes in with a criminal conviction in the future, they're going to know you, if you approve it tonight, they're going to know you waived it this time, or might know, or the record will be there of knowing. And if it is a similarly situated individual, you will have created a precedent that the ordinance does not apply in that situation, or would not apply with those situations. So you have to be, you do have the discretion to grant waivers of your ordinances. You've done it in the past. You did it, for example, during COVID with some of your zoning ordinances. So you do have that authority without changing your ordinance, but you have to exercise it extremely carefully, have a very high bar, and do what you're doing tonight. Very carefully explore it, ask questions, get all the details, satisfy yourself that this particular situation either wasn't contemplated or goes beyond what was contemplated by the ordinance here, what was intended here, and understand that if you do grant that waiver of this particular requirement with regard to liquor license applications, that it's something that you might look back on in the future and say we need to be consistent with. I'd also like, while I have the floor, if we could get a copy of that other letter as part of the record, because if this does come back, it would be good to have the full set of materials. Thank you.
Ms. Bullower.
I'd like to follow up on your question to our attorney. So, does that mean that if we were to approve this particular license, that any future license that requested come in because and it was denied because the applicant was convicted of a crime or of dishonesty or false statement, that we would have to also approve that request as well?
Not necessarily. If it is an individual with a very similar situation, the answer is...
Like 12 years?
Yes.
It's got to be specific, like...
Fairly specific, similarly situated. Similar is the language used in the law. You wouldn't be able to discriminate or treat differently that person in the future coming in and asking for the same waiver of the same ordinance requirement under similar situation. So it might, maybe, you know, it's hard. I know it's a little nebulous, but
yes,
it's not an automatic anytime anybody has a criminal conviction that you now have to waive this provision. That's not the case at all.
In this particular case, because the person left the country for 12 years, that premise would be, would any future case like this would have to be similar in that respect?
Yes, it could be very similar in that regard, or, you know, it could be a number of differences or similarities. So you would have to exercise judgment. I assume you'll be calling on me or the city attorney at that future meeting to talk about it. If that question arose, we certainly would want to address it carefully.
And Mr. Gupta, your wife and children stayed in the United States. Is that
Yes,
what I
ma'am.
heard you say? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Bridges and then Mr. Aldred.
City Attorney, regarding this, so the applicant attorney provided you a new document that I think that regarding, because this goes to the credibility of the applicant. The timeline outlined in the new document here regarding clarifies and substantiates what the presentation was. Is that important for us to get your interpretation of this particular document here to ensure that it lines up with what was stated by the applicant? What's your point about that?
Well, I think Mr. Aldred already identified a discrepancy from the original letter that was clarified by this subsequent letter. I have not gone through every detail of this yet to see if there are others, but there is one that was discussed and explained, and was offered, voluntarily, but that was further explored by Councilmember Aldred.
So you're comfortable with the council having, of course, it's all based on council's prerogative, their interpretation, deliberation. You're comfortable with this new document here and what the testimony has been, that it lines up with everything regarding credibility of what the witness said?
Well, I'm not the judge of credibility. You are, because you make the decision. So I'd be happy to pass this down for each of you to take a look at.
I think, Madam Mayor, maybe this is a situation we may want to table this for additional discussion. I think in order to get council an opportunity to review this new document, to make sure it lines up, I think it would be this. I'm going to offer a table, which is basically no other discussion will be made on this, that we would move toward tabling this to ensure that this document lines up what the applicant has stated, and then that we can, we're not calling into question anything about what you said, okay? But we want to make sure that this right here is what we all know and we all understand to be, and that lines up with comments made by Councilmember Aldred as well. I think, so I'm going to offer a tabling motion to see what that is.
So Mr. Aldred, if I may.
I was just going to say, as a matter of procedure, if
Yes,
it's a
that's where I'm going.
motion to postpone, I'd suggest a time certain that it's going to be postponed to.
Okay, so before we continue on with the potential motion to postpone, just to clarify, Mr. Aldred did want to ask a question beforehand, but now that Mr. Bridges has put this forward, do we have to look at exploring his motion to table?
If a formal motion has been recognized, then you do need to proceed with entertaining a second.
Have you made a formal motion, or have you just thrown out an idea?
I'm making a formal recommendation that we table and for their date certain, and see what the council says. If they don't get a second vote, then we don't, table dies, right?
Okay, and so it would be a date certain, just to remind council that we will have a maximum of 6 people at our next meeting, and they require 5 votes to pass.
Right.
So I don't know, in your motion, are you making the motion to our next meeting or 2 meetings from now? If it's more than 2 meetings from now, that takes us to January.
Based on, just ask the applicant, would 4 weeks hurt you anyway from a standpoint of proceeding with your business?
Yes, sir.
Would hurt?
Yes, sir.
It would hurt.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what the council wishes are. I would still offer the motion and see if there's support for the motion to table for 2 weeks out.
Sorry, we don't have a second.
No, I wanted to speak, but I guess I can't. so-
Second, I second.
Okay, we have a motion and support
Okay, now
to move this to our meeting of November 25th, I think is the next meeting. Whatever is our next council.
That's correct.
Okay, the 25th. So we have a motion and support. Is there discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I just want to point out, I think that's unfortunate for for Mr. Gupta for a couple reasons. One, we are short a council member on that meeting, and this is not a simple majority. This has to be 5 votes. So I think that puts him at a disadvantage right there. Also, I'm sure he has to close on this building. And I mean, anyone in real estate knows, I mean, a sale is critical. There's money on the table. So my guess is time of the essence. This would, if this doesn't go forward with the 5-vote council in November, it sounds like that puts him all the way into January. I mean, I don't know what that's going to do to his sale, but I'm sure the current owner isn't going to be too pleased about that, and that could cause some problem, and I don't know where you're at on financing and all of that, but I just think that's incredibly unfair to our petitioner here.
Well, as a maker of the motion, I really feel it's important regarding the issue regarding, we talked about precedent setting as well as that how this may impact other particular applicants. I think that should outweigh the concern regarding, I respect your business, but I think the issue regarding precedent setting, how it's going to impact future applicants is important as well, too, in regards to your point.
So before And then I'll be right
There's
with.
more people that want to speak.
Right.
Not a motion to
Mayor, I have a question that could, I need some
Is
clarification.
there no discussion on a motion to
Clarification
table?
from the city attorney.
There is not supposed to be substantive discussion
my-
on the
my
matter
error.
at hand, only on the motion for
Okay.
postponement,
Okay.
on whether or not to postpone.
Two people who want to speak down here.
Can I get a clarification from the city attorney
Regarding?
regarding section 4-45, as far as Class C licenses? In the ordinance, it says a person who has been convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment in excess of 1 year under the law under which he or she was convicted. Now, he pled to a misdemeanor. Was it a 90-day misdemeanor, or what was the misdemeanor? It makes a difference.
The false statement.
Was it a 90-day?
As a matter of order, we are beyond the,
Yeah, we're out of order.
We're out of order.
That's out of order because that's not about
Apologize
the
for that.
motion to table. I'm sorry, Mr. Dwyer. Okay.
We need to call the question.
Okay, we need to call the question. Is this a roll call vote, or is it just a regular vote? It's a regular vote. Okay. All those in favor of tabling to our 11:25 meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That motion does not carry. So I have a question for the city attorney, and then we'll go to other questions on council. Would it be appropriate for us to call a 10-minute recess so that council could be provided a copy of the letter that was walked on to us this evening, so that we would have the opportunity to review that and then continue the conversation?
yes, you could make a motion for a recess or a tabling within the meeting itself, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I have not yet, I have not made that motion, but other questions? So, Mr. Dwyer, you had a question that was of a substantive nature. You're inquiring of the city
For
attorney.
the city attorney, as noted in the police department's report, the person who has been convicted of a crime punishable by, and this is stating the 4-45 restrictions on a Class C license, who's been convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment in excess of 1 year under the law under which he or she was convicted of crime involving. Now, this is a 90-day misdemeanor, or was it a 1-year misdemeanor? What did he plead to? It was an attempt, right?
This
Was it a
was an
90-day?
attempt crime, yes.
Pardon?
This was an attempt crime, yes.
Does that mean it's a 90-day misdemeanor, which doesn't follow the ordinance? The ordinance says convicted of a crime punishable in excess of 1 year.
Yes, the way the ordinance reads is that there is the first part, which says convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment in excess of 1 year under the law under which he or she was convicted, semicolon, a crime involving theft, dishonesty, or false statement, including tax evasion, regardless of punishment, semicolon, or has been convicted of a crime, and it moves on from there. So it basically treats this type of crime, a crime involving theft, dishonesty, and false statement, regardless of whether it's punishable by 1 year or more.
So where did he make, was it under, are you taking it under theft, dishonesty, or false statement?
That is what my understanding that Chief King indicated in his report.
Did he make a false statement?
I think Chief King is identifying that issuing a check with insufficient funds is a crime of dishonesty or false statement, perhaps theft. But it would generally, fall into that category. I would tend to agree with Chief King in that assessment. I don't have his memo up to confirm that right at this moment. I'm pulling it up right now, but I do believe that's where he categorized it. And even if he didn't, that's where the ordinance would categorize it.
Well, it's interesting to me that the police department did not come out with which normally they would. I've never seen one that came to council with the request that they had the option to waive. I've never seen in my tenure with the police department here in Farmington Hills, 23 years, where there was ever a request by the police department to have the city council consider a waiver. It's just never happened before. So in my mind, the police department feels this is a gray area, and I'm just speculating, a gray area, and they're leaving it up to the city council, and he pretty well says that, they're leaving it up to us to grant the waiver based on their investigation, that they're concerned too that this is not a real clear violation, and it's clear that to them, I believe, that they don't want to make that recommendation for a straight-out denial, which normally they would 99.9% of the time. So I would like to make a motion if I could. I'd like to make a motion to grant a waiver, approve the request for Events Orama LLC for transfer of ownership of a 2024 Class C license with various permits and three bar located at 23666 Orchard Lake Road.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there support?
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Dr. Bruce.
I can count, I'm sure it's going to pass, and that's great for Mr. Gupta. My concern here is really the principle. You know, crime was committed. Mr. Gupta, for whatever reason, left the country, didn't come back until 2022. Made no effort during that time that I can see to satisfy that debt. Apparently never reached out to the person he owed the money to create any kind of a payment plan, even no matter how small. And then when he did take care of the debt in 2022, there was no effort to make the person whole beyond $2010, and I have a problem with that. If that had been me, I would have calculated interest from that time, a reasonable interest, and I would have paid off the total amount due plus interest to try to make that person whole. To me, the whole feeling I get is that he did the minimum necessary. And when I think about second chances, I like to see people go above and beyond to get that second chance, not to do the minimum necessary, but to do something a little bit more to earn that second chance. And here, I just feel it was the absolute minimum after 12 years. So I have a problem with that. And we're giving away a Class C liquor license, which is a very valuable thing in the city, to somebody who was convicted of a crime and I think did the absolute minimum to rectify it after 12 years. So to me, that just doesn't really add up for the conveyance of one of our very precious Class C liquor license when the law is so clear. And if we give a waiver, which kind of puts us, I think, in a bit of a precarious situation for future waivers, you know, I think we have to really take that into consideration. I've been on council 20 years. I've never had this happen before, where a liquor license has come before us with somebody that has been charged with a crime or convicted of a crime for that liquor license. It's never happened in my tenure here. So, you know, I think this is a serious matter. And again, I think the minimum was done. And if everybody else thinks that to get a second chance, you do the absolute minimum, then he gets his liquor license. If other people think it takes a little bit more to get that second chance, then that's kind of where I'm at. So otherwise, I think I know where the count's going to be.
How to speak to Mr. Aldred.
My concern on this is that I think some of the basis of decisions is actually based on what we were given in the council packet, which wasn't quite accurate in terms of the timeline. And I actually liked the mayor's proposal to actually spend a few minutes. We've had some very long meetings this year. I think rather than just jumping into a vote, I would actually propose making the information that's been made available here, actually read it, taking 10 minutes, and then making a decision.
Are we allowed to take a motion for a recess before we take a vote?
Yes, you are.
So I would move to do that, or
Okay.
I would pause it to allow Councilmember Knoll to speak.
Valerie, Ms. Knoll, did you want to speak?
No, I mean, if people need 5-10 minutes to study this issue further, I'm fine with that. I mean, I want people to vote, educate themselves and vote. You know, I mentioned this before. I do think he's very sincere in his apology here, the mistake he made with the bad check. So I won't go through that again, but, you know, I'll just remind people here that a banquet facility cannot succeed without a liquor license. So if that liquor license is not able to transfer, that banquet facility won't succeed. You're never going to run a banquet facility without a liquor license. And it's been in disrepair for a while now. I know this is not a new thing where it's gone downhill. It's been going downhill for a while. And I think it is unfortunately contributing to that particular area on Orchard Lake. I think it's very important that we see that huge facility on Orchard Lake revitalized and the look improved of it. And we have someone here who has a lot of restaurant and banquet experience. He seems to have the skills. He's already mentioned he plans on improving the parking lot and the condition of the facade of the building. And that's critical to revitalizing that business. So that is a big part of my consideration as well.
Thank you. Mr. Aldred, are you making a motion?
I'm making a motion that we take a 10-minute recess to read the provided information so that we can then make a more educated vote.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there support for a recess?
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support for recess. This is a regular vote. All those in favor of a recess, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. We're in recess for 10 minutes. We have a motion on the table. Mr. Dwyer, could you please clarify for me, in our packet?
Yeah, certainly.
There is a recommended
Yes.
motion
Yes.
that
Well,
reads that the city council hereby adopts the resolution for, and you're stating approval, to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for the request from Events-A-Rama LLC to transfer ownership of a 2024 Class C license with permits and 3 bars from Farmington Hills Investment, Inc., located at 23666 Orchard Lake Road. That is your
Mayor,
motion?
that is my recommendation and motion, yes.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Knoll, is that what you seconded?
I seconded it, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Correct.
Madam Mayor, but that includes the waiver of the ordinance provision as well as part of that motion?
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes, I'm also asking for the waiver of the
Section 40,
cited
40-45-7.
45 dash, yes. I have that in front of me.
Okay, so includes the waiver of 4-45 subsection 7, and as seconded by Ms. Knoll. And this would be a roll call, well, discussion, please, Mr.
Yeah,
Aldred.
Thank you. So just to come back to the point, the reason why we were given this was the clarification of the points. If I just clarify that. So what this note, which is from Mr. Gupta's lawyer, who was representing him at the time back in 2010, and he was saying, which says, on May 20th, 2010, Mr. Gupta and I appeared for the arraignment, and he entered a plea of not guilty to the charges. The case was in process of being resolved when Mr. Gupta had to go to India to attend to his ailing mother. So that's the facts of the situation.
Yes, and I voluntarily read that into the record here today.
Thank you.
To give an accurate record. And I would also like to add, if I may, the Michigan Liquor Control Commission is well aware of Mr. Gupta's criminal history. They asked for additional correspondence, and we provided the same documentation that you have here in your possession. And despite that, the Michigan Liquor Control Commission approved Mr. Gupta for the transfer of the liquor license. And we're more than happy to provide the correspondence that we submitted to the commission. I believe in our supplement letter, there is an attachment with the liquor license application pages in there indicating these charges. And so we're more than willing to provide any correspondence to the Liquor Control Commission. And so they are aware of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
And just to clarify, the city attorney, if I may ask the question, is there any benefit in clarifying with regards to the motion of the extenuating circumstances of allowing this waiver? I think we've said there is a waiver. Is there any benefit for us giving any clarification as to the waiver, or is that sufficient in terms of the record of discussion?
Yes, thank you. For some matters, that is very beneficial, such as land use and zoning matters and so forth. For this type of a matter, considering the discussion that's happened at the meeting tonight, there has been extensive question and answer and facts put into the record. I think it's very clear that City Council is making its decision based on all of the facts that have been submitted and making a finding based on those facts and circumstances specific to this situation. I've also talked to the city clerk and asked that a maybe not verbatim set of minutes be put together, but a more thorough set of minutes put together so we have a very good record of this in the future if it ever comes up again. I think that would be sufficient for this type of matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and this is a roll call vote.
That's correct. Council members Aldred,
Yes.
Bolaware,
Yes.
Yes.
Bridges, Bruce,
No.
Dwyer,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
and Mayor Rich.
Yes. Okay, so that carries. Mr. Gupta, thank you for your investment in our community. We wish you well. Let us know when you cut the ribbon.
Thank you, Mayor and members
Thank
of the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please take care of the frontage for us.
We'll show it to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 6, consideration of appointments to various boards and commissions.
Sorry about that.
You got those documents?
You will see before you.
I got it right here.
Do you want?
Yeah,
I
a
can do it.
motion, please, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so I will make a motion to appoint Paul Aaron to the Beautification Commission, and this is for a term ending February 1, 2028. Also to the Beautification Commission, in this motion, an appointment for Kaylee Sosnowski, and that's also a term ending February 1, 2028. Then for the Emergency Preparedness Commission, in my motion is for the appointment of Sean Thomas for a term ending February 1, 2025. And also appointing Rudy Petros to the Grand River Corridor Improvement Authority for a term ending February 1, 2028. And also to the Commission on Community Health, Sylvia White, and that is for a term ending February 1, 2027.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there support? Support. We have a motion and support. Any discussion? This is a regular vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you very much. I see Mr. Aaron is in the audience with us this evening. Thank you for volunteering. Please send your friends. All righty. We look forward to a more beautiful Farmington Hills. Then this takes us to public comments. Anyone wishing to give public comment must complete a blue slip, and you will be called to speak for a period of no longer than 3 minutes. I see Dan McRoberts is with us. Please come. Good night, Paul. Good
Madam
evening.
Mayor,
If you could state the street you live on, but not the house number.
this is Greencastle Road. I'm the HOA president for the subdivision. We're located right off a 12-mile road between Inkster and Middlebelt. I'll try to keep this really short. Construction on 12 Mile is going to cause our subdivision sign to be removed. The Oakland County Road Commission says they will not help relocate it. If they touch it, they're just going to remove it, and we won't have a sign anymore. I tried to contact City Hall for the engineering department and had a conversation, and they were going to send me an email regarding the sign, because our sign is like 15, 20 years old, so it doesn't meet current standards, so he was going to send me an email stating that. I never received one. I came in, talked to somebody inside the engineering department, gave them my information. This was 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't received any information. We would like to try to keep our sign, but at the moment, we're just hitting roadblocks. We're not able to get any information whatsoever. We're a small subdivision. We have 84 houses, and our dues are ridiculously low. We can't afford to remove the sign, store it, and then reinstall it. So this is why we're asking for the city for assistance.
Thank you. Mr. Mekshin, please.
Sure. So I'll look into the issue that you're having. So the engineering department hasn't responded.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So it's a county road jurisdiction. We're
Yes.
certainly happy to pick up the phone and have a conversation with the folks at the county, see what we can do. No promises. It's their jurisdiction. They're the ones that set the requirements. They are very sensitive as it relates to signs like that don't meet current safety standards, things of that nature. But happy to make a phone call to the road commission.
One of our concerns is, over the years, there's a small section of the road, of the apron, that the city has said it's the county's road to fix the potholes, and the county has said it's the city's road to fix. And this was going on for several years before the city finally came in and fixed it. But at least 5 years, every year we'd have just fill in the potholes until the repairs were destroyed again.
Yeah, that's not
So
unusual.
So the question is like, is the sign on city property or on county property?
That's all. Well, we'll take a look.
Yeah.
We'll take a look. We got to take a look at we'll take a look at the plat.
Okay.
If it's in the city road right-of-way, it sounds to me like it's in the county road right-of-way. That's why they want to take it out, but we're happy to take a look, and we'll get back with you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank
Not
you.
a problem.
Any
Thank
more
you for
questions?
coming.
I'll feel free to answer any other questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have Mr. McRoberts' contact information? Okay, we're all set? Okay, thank you very much.
No, Dan.
Oh, yeah, yes,
Thank
we
you.
do. All righty. Valdor Hagland, please. Mr. Hagland, if you could state the street you live on, but not the number, please.
I live on Dorchester Drive, Farmington Glen subdivision. Thank you for hearing me. And about a couple of weeks ago, I was coming home and I saw a crewman putting flags, yellow flags, gas line, all up and down the street, several streets. All that to say, I thought, gee, there must be something going on. And within a day or two, a truck, a tractor, and something else pulled up in front of our house. And I said, what's going on? And now they're spraying white paint square areas, three feet by 3 feet on our lawn. And so there was a crew of 3, and I speak a little Spanish, and we were able to communicate, and they said, there's a fiber optic going under. Kind of goes, oh, really? So he gave me a card. It was from Sci-Fi Networks, and I spoke with a gentleman there, Mr. O'Brien, and he said, yeah, he said, this is all part of the new network and so on and so forth. And I was kind of in awe, say, how did all this happen? And he goes, oh, it was the, the city and this and that, and they hired us and so on and so forth. And I said, we didn't receive anything. And he said, well, usually they put a door thing on the I said, a what? On the what? So I asked my neighbors, they said, no, they didn't get anything like that either. So anyway, long story short is they were out the next day. Tractor, backhoe, pickup truck, digging a 3x3 2-foot hole with a big metal plate in the thing. So I asked the gentleman on the phone with Sci-Fi Networks, what happens next? And he goes, well, probably within 60 to 90 days, they'll be doing other work. So I've seen more paint on the curbs, numbers, lines going across the pavement and all that. All that to say, I'm not here to complain about progressive movement and putting this stuff in. I totally appreciate it, because now, of course, I've been on their website. I've been on the website here in the Farmington Hills website to look at what it is they're speaking to. I'm not against any of that. I'm just thinking, or I'm just saying, where was the communication to the residents? None of the neighbors that around where I live knew anything about any of this. So that's all, really.
Thank you for coming to share this with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to me.
We have, this is not a dialogue, but Mr. Mection, if you could address, please.
Sure, and thanks for coming in. This is not an unusual phenomenon with this project. It seems to be ubiquitous. We have had several conversations with Sci-Fi on this specific issue. We don't quite, I don't want to use the term we don't quite understand. Our understanding is that they're putting door hangers on everybody's doors well in advance of the work that's taking place or will take place within the neighborhoods. They're supposed to be putting sandwich boards at entrances of subdivisions, letting folks know what's happening, who they are, why they're there. But they just can't seem to get their message across. So we have been working very closely with them. Sounds like you've talked to all of the right people. They've given you the information. It's just the advance notice of the shock and awe of the work being done in the neighborhoods that I think is really catching people off guard, and we're trying to improve that situation.
Yeah, well, thank you for anything you can do to improve that communication.
Yes. we've encouraged them very strongly to improve that and to continue to do that. And in fact, we've pushed out more information on our websites as well as a result of that. So,
Okay, thank you.
and thank you for your patience and understanding. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mayor, I know we don't normally comment on public comment, but I just feel compelled to say something. Because this is not the first time we've been notified of this problem, and I am extremely frustrated. And I think this council has voiced our frustration to the city manager, and I know you're frustrated, and I know you've met with Sci-Fi numerous times to try to get them to improve the communication. But I've said this before. If they're not gonna do it, then we have to do it. And it means we have to spend the money. We have a communications department. We need to put together better communication, and I'm sorry, it's not just the website. We cannot expect our residents to have to take time out of their day. Oh, let me think. I should go to the city's website. No one just randomly goes to the city's website. I'm sorry, but they don't. You know, they've got 5 other things going on at the same time with their, putting food on the table and making dinner and getting kids here and there and, their busy lives. We have to put together some form of communication and send it out in the mail in a city newsletter. So they actually have a hard copy that is delivered to them rather than them having to go out and seek the information by thinking, oh, I should go check a website. I mean, we have to make it easier for our residents.
Listen, I want to say, I agree with that. And the information you send out to city council every week regarding fiber optics, maybe you need to communicate that to council, at the council meetings as well.
It's
regarding the map, as well as any type of changes or any type of thing they need to be doing. So again, I've heard this on several occasions too, where residents are seeing workers in their lawn doing work and there's no notification of it at all. No door hanger, no sandwich board or nothing. So Councilmember Knoll clearly articulated the same frustration I have, that we need to step up our communication. If we need to spend some dollars in order to do that, we need to do that, because obviously Sci-Fi is not going to do it.
Thank you.
To the point we want to do it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to also comment on that because we were my subdivision, I think we were the first subdivision to have Sci-Fi come in, and Sci-Fi they just absolutely stink in terms of communication. They didn't put out any flags on doors or door hangers. They didn't put out any sandwich boards. And they just come onto property. They start digging things up. You don't know what's going on. They mark up stuff. They marked up our driveway, which was brand new. And now we've got yellow paint that won't come off our brand new driveway because somebody just came through and marked it up. So I'm not happy about that. And I still have a tube that's been sticking up for the last year in my yard that I can't get any answers on in terms of when they're going to come back and do something with this great big tube that's sticking up out of our yard that our lawn service has to cut around, or they cut around it, and then I got to go weed whack around it because it's growing weeds around this tube. So they're terrible. And part of the reasons we get so many people coming in here with real property concerns is because they're not even informed of the basic stuff, basic timelines, what's happening, nothing, which would cut down the number of complaints here that people have about how their lawns are being torn up if they had some prior knowledge of what's going to happen to their property. So I think it's really just a shame that this company is so bad with their communication. I hope they're watching tonight because I'll tell them right to their face, I think their communication is absolutely the worst I've ever seen of any public utility that we've had to deal with. And I think as a city, we should put a hell of a lot more pressure on Sci-Fi to communicate better. I agree that if they don't do it, we should hold them accountable in some way, and then we should have our communications department tell people what's going on, send out letters to everybody, inform subdivisions that are next on the list so that those people aren't taken by surprise. And I think we need to have a real, very strong meeting with Sci-Fi and let them know that this is unacceptable. It has been unacceptable since they've started. It continues to be unacceptable, and I'm really very frustrated with the whole process. So I empathize with you.
Could we have Sci-Fi come into council, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Aldred?
I was going to say, can we have Sci-Fi come into council?
That's what a great idea.
Echo.
So, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And apologies. I understand, you're hearing frustration from us too, and, yep. All right, next up, Angie Smith, please.
Good evening and happy Veterans Day. I want to thank the City Council and the Mayor for working with Farmington Public School Board. I'm not speaking on the behalf of the board. I'm speaking as one individual, as a board member. As we know, after the election the other day, we had several students at North Farmington that received very nasty text messages regarding picking cotton and going to slave plantations. I received that information, worked very closely with a couple of city council members, and they were very highly disgusted. So I want everybody to know that that was not the students in our district that did this. This is that whole thing that's going around. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being there. And this is what the school district needs to do with our city councils, is work together. And each and every one of you have shown some sort of support and discussed what we have had to go through with our students. So that, I want to thank you. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for looking out for our littles, looking out for our middles, and looking out for those high schoolers that think they know more than we do. But thank you. I also want to say thank you to Jeff King for stepping up. When I sent him the information and Detective Clark, they were spot on right away. Thank you for Jeff King for working with this whole thing with the anti-Semitic racism and being there when we need him with the shooting over in the complex a couple of months ago. Let's keep doing the work that you all are doing and uplifting our police department. And again, thank you so much for looking out for these little kids, because we need that support right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And just to reiterate, if people do receive things that are, I don't even know the words, racist, anti-Semitic, anti-Islamic, that should be reported, please do report it to our police department. Okay, next up, PG, please. Good evening.
Good evening to everyone. Earlier in the council study, you were talking about the discussion and the possibility of replacing the Farmington Hills Multicultural, Multiracial Community Council. And I want to give a compliment to Councilman Bill Dwyer for what he said and the speakers that spoke. Often when we establish groups, the mission statement is not clear and the purpose of the group is not clear. So to hear those two ladies say how long they were a member of this group, but the mission wasn't clear, they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, you should not allow these groups to meet until everything has been defined. When I went to the University of Michigan, I established with the faculty a multicultural committee because I was an older, non-traditional student. I was the only student on this committee. And what we wanted to do was to make sure that the kids had at least 3 hours of some sort of class that spoke about multicultural or diversity. I don't think that DEI is the same as multicultural. Prior to moving here, I was in Southfield, and I have a house in Southfield also. The Martin Luther King Task Force Committee is the largest peace walk in the state of Michigan, and they established that task force almost 33 years ago. They've done the Taste Fest. They've talked about diversity. You know, I think that DEI should be renamed to what myself and another guy tried to do when we established the resolution. We talked about greater inclusion, diversity, and equity. When you say diversity first, and you're looking at the job aspect, you can have one person of a different nationality and they call that diversity. But that one person doesn't always get the inclusion. If you say greater inclusion first, and then diversity, and then equity, and now the respect, I think the meaning is much more clear. So I agree with you, Councilman Dwyer. Multicultural is not the same thing as DEI, and I think to just continue to mix them up, to intertwine all these things that are somewhat like, you know, like giving the understanding, but they're not quite the same. It speaks to the fact that the mission is not clear. And you can't keep establishing these committees for the sake of establishing them when everything is not clear and the mission statement is not clear.
Thank you. And last up, we have new resident, Preston Marston. Good evening, Mr. Marston, and welcome to your first council meeting. Oh, second, my apologies, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm a resident of the area in 8th grade, and I'm looking for competitive creative opportunities in the Farmington Hills Library. As of now, the only competitive creative opportunities I see are a writing competition. This should be expanded upon into screenplay contests and film contests. These opportunities for youth would allow them to exhibit more creativity and discover new interests. For those already interested in these topics like me, it allows us to expand our knowledge through doing and enable more opportunities for us to show our work locally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. And so that then takes us to having completed our agenda for this evening. There being no further business to come before us, we are adjourned until November 25th. Thank you all.
Mayor.